guests, and callers, and not those of radio station KICK, Vision Communications Incorporated, its management, or advertisers. Vision Communications Incorporated is not responsible for the validity or accuracy of information presented on this program. Wellness Wednesday with Dr. Norm Shealy and Dr. Shealy-Sorin. Get the health answers you need from the creator of holistic medicine and the 2020 Holistic Doctor of the Year. To be a part of the show, call 417-447-1777. Wellness Wednesday. Now, here are your hosts, Dr. Norm Shealy and Dr. Shealy-Sorin.
And good afternoon. It's the time to talk about your health for the next year and forever.
Indeed. But let's start with some basics. We're going to announce the topic for today's show, and then we'll talk about some interesting things. And today's topic is absolutely essential as it is to be a human. And it is, well, two things: return to humanity and return to common sense.
The most uncommon commodity in the world, and has been off and on, at least for the last several hundred years. It was the start of the Revolutionary War was brought about by Thomas Paine writing a wonderful book which sold out by all standards of the day, and was really a program to announce to people, let's start a civil war because the government is evil.
Yes,
At that time, he was talking only about the government of Britain, but we'll get back to that later.
Indeed, we sure will. Now, is there a couple of things you wanted to mention in terms of general health?
Well, of course, at the foundation, common sense is if we know these things, if you don't have these habits, you have uncommon lack of sense. Number one, a body mass index, 18 to 24. Every pound above a body mass index of 24 weakens your immune system and your health in every conceivable way. So that by the time you get to just 40 pounds overweight, your health is the same as someone who smokes 3 packs of cigarettes a day. The average American is well overweight. In fact, 42% are just plain obese, and another 30% are overweight. Number two, eating a minimum of 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. The ideal is like 8 to 10, but a minimum of 5. The average American gets 2.2. Number three, exercise. A minimum of 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Only 10% of people get that. Next, sleeping. A minimum of 5 and up to 8 hours every night. Well, 42% of Americans get less than that. So if you take all of these habits, only 97.5% do not have one or more of them. That's the bottom line. And so only 2.5% of people, in my opinion, are smart enough, have enough common sense to be alive.
And that's part of the common sense. But let me actually mention a couple of other things that are of interest. I do want to announce this week's winner of Diane, Megan. You got the choice of your of courses, any course of your choice. As a matter of fact, congratulations. There's a number of great courses out there, biogenics, otherwise. Another announcement: we will be having another winner of another course. Your choice, literally, coming up next week. So stay tuned and stay with us. Good things are coming. And speaking of a Black Friday, it wouldn't be a Black Friday if we didn't say something about that, right? So usually the PEMF unit is $1,600, and it certainly is worth its price because it does so many great things. And we'll mention it. We'll talk about that. Wonderful recharger for the rest of the body, plus does amazing things in terms of the brain and relaxation of the nervous system and otherwise sleep, total balance. $200 off down to $1,400, auto applied. So you don't have to even put any codes for that. And that lasts until Cyber Monday. Another announcement is 10% of all the code is Black Friday 21, and 10% off the entire store. Everything else
in the book.
But the PEMF, you don't have to you put the code in; it's automatic. Now, what's more important than material? Because we talked about the habits, which is material. We talked about offerings for the Black Friday, which is material, and it's why not? But I want to get back to something that is truly, truly essential. We hear the word mind, body, spirit, and I'm going to actually say something about that. Today is going to be a really candid, interesting show. I'm holding nothing back. I'll try not to say certain words so we can stay on the air. But like I said, other than that, we're going to hold very little back here. What is the nature and the concept of society and the ruling party? What is the nature of that? That nature is control, and I'm going to get to the point quite shortly. But I'm going to give an example. In the former Soviet Russia, before it became a Soviet, before the communists took over, frankly speaking, there was a word in an ancient Russian or basically Cyrillic alphabet, and it was for a human, человек. If you break that into the roots, and it's fascinating, it's interesting. It means thinking. Well, it's a root of thinking man, and vek stands for eternity or century. So that means a man, a human, which is not just a man, child, woman, is meant to use their mind, meant to speak their mind, and is a consciousness. We are more than the physical. We are more than mental. We are more than emotional. Now, what happened after the Soviet Revolution in 1917? I just want to point out the use of the language and how the propaganda or marketing machine took over. There was no more use of человек. It was gone, annihilated, taken out of vocabulary, canceled. What came on board? Гражданин, which speaks for citizen. Even better, a compliant citizen. A citizen that does everything that is asked of them and asks no questions. That is what happened. And the history repeats itself. I want to go back to a wonderful book that I recently read. And the book is called Anastasia. And if anybody is interested, the author is Vladimir Megre. Megre. What do I like about this book? The summary of it, and of course you got to read it for yourself. The idea is that there are recluses, people living in the taiga, which is the Russia's north, basically, minus 20, minus 30 temperatures, and they don't need houses. These people live unto 120, 130. Some have been reported to live to 150, which is where we're heading, by the way. Longevity. And we have a pathway to get there. That's another show, by the way. Those people are happy. They're healthy. They don't have things and they don't need things. They have a connection to nature, and they have a connection to their community. They have a connection to the spirit, they're at peace. They're happy. They're smiling. And until the civilization comes in and takes away their habitat, they do just fine. Just fine. So let's come back to the concept of a human being, and I'll start off with a couple of basic essentials, and then I'm going to talk about another wonderful book actually written by Dr. Shealy and myself, as well as, well, a few other contributors. The idea that mind, body, spirit, and I'm going to basically say out loud why I do not like that word, mind, body, spirit. I think it's a travesty. Now, Norm, you remember what happened when the American Holistic Medical Association turned into, what was the name on that?
Well, they became whips, in my opinion, and I'm being kind.
Yes.
They became the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine, which in my opinion is crap, and I'm being as kind as I can on the radio.
I'm sure there's stronger words you want to
Integrative
use.
is, well, BS is a kind word for integrative. Most of it is scam and fake and nonsense, and it's a fake, nonsense.
So here... Perfect. I'm sure you get stronger words than that off the camera, but off the radio. But and so do I, by the way. I agree. What do we call an alternative and complementary medicine that's acceptable? Mind, body, spirit. I get it. There's 3 components. But how about the order? We're ignoring the fact that we're spiritual beings. We are a soul being having a journey in this physical body. Now, people may have different beliefs. Some people have, as many religious aspects and religious possibilities, sects and divisions. people are going to have different opinions. Even within a certain religion, there's going to be different individual differences of how people perceive, organize, and understand the concept of God, which is, to me, I cannot say, it's a great unknown. But I did have several near-death experiences. Dr. Shealy has had a whole bunch of interesting experiences, and I want to share that basically several things that have come from, I know you want to say something. Okay, I'll continue. The key here is, and my experience in life, I mentioned about Russia, former Soviet Union, I mentioned about the spirit, and I'm going to tell you, in the Communist Party, in the communist regime, the communists in the former Soviet became the God. If you didn't pray to the God, if you didn't bow to their temples, if you didn't do everything that they told you to do, well, there's KGB and other sources. And trust me, you don't want to meet those guys. Yes, even some of the toughest, people that I know, they didn't do very well when they fell into the hands of those people. But again, once it got to that place, it was too late. Too late. And so the choice was to do something from the very beginning while there is still a choice, or at least an illusion of choice. I don't know which one it is, but who knows? The idea of shadow and light, hell and heaven, I want to talk about that. And I do want to take some time with this. To many people, hell and heaven means different things, sometimes very specific, sometimes esoteric. I want to bring it down to the earth level. What is the concept of hell and heaven? Hell is depression. Hell is anxiety. Hell is fear. Hell is, everything we see these days. That's hell. Hell is bullshit. It's going to be BS. I shouldn't say that. BS, belief system. Okay, I'm on the radio. BS that's coming from certain authorities and parties and media, main media, social media. We're on social media, but we bring you messages that I think are important. The idea and the concept is, what is shadow? What is darkness? And my understanding, and I'd love your concept on this too. Please make a comment, and as for the readers, please feel free to jump in as well. Shadow does not stand a chance compared to the light, and I want to give an example. If you have the darkest of the rooms, in other words, there is no light whatsoever, and you have a small candle right in the middle of the room, that small candle is going to annihilate everything in its path, and the shadow does not stand a chance. But the candle has to be lit. And the other huge, major, important thing is, once a person gets back to nature, gets back from the hellish things that we are surrounded by, and the hellish things are what? Media, lies, everything. Who are we? Ask yourself, what is your concept of yourself? Because I can tell you what Dr. Shealy, Norm, myself, we're spiritual beings. We're soul beings. We're here on the earth. As long as we're alive, we're going to continue doing what we can do to the top of our ability. And at some point, we'll get to go home. And that's okay. So therefore, there's no fear of death. There's no fear of life. And there's no fear of saying the truth. And here's the thing, the truth. The truth can never be suppressed.
But I think I'd say hell is torture.
Hell is torture.
Whatever's there,
yes.
However it tortures you, it is.
And most of the people living in our world today are in hell, personal hell on mind, body, and spirit levels. And the choice to rise is literally a choice to raise your vibration, however you want to put it. Some of the easiest ways, and I just want to mention something before we get to the book, because there's a book that we co-wrote on common sense, recovering common sense. I want you to be able to hear some of the passages here, is that get back to nature. And I'm rediscovering the concept of gardening, getting back to the roots, to the soil, being barefoot, just enjoying everything around us, being in harmony, as opposed to the technocratic, in other words, Facebook and YouTube and, sorry, not so much YouTube, but all the other BS, that basically creeps into our lives and tells us lies. And what it is lies. The truth will always be there. The lies will come and go. And that's how you know. That's one way to tell. Now, do you want to have something to say?
Well, I want to read a couple of sentences from our book. This is a quote, first of all, from Thomas Paine. Society in every state is a blessing, but government, even in its best state, is but a necessary evil. In its worst state, an intolerable one, for when we suffer or are exposed to the same miseries by a government, which we might expect in a country without government, Our calamity is heightened by reflecting that we furnish the means by which we suffer. Government-like dress is the badge of lost innocence, the places of kings, and built upon the ruins of bowers of paradise. Now, in my opinion, for at least the last 2 years, we're just as bad off as we were in the days just before the Revolutionary War. We seek an American revolution in health care, one that restores common sense to our lifestyle, our choices, overthrowing the tyrannies of habit. But more than the individual needs reform, the institutions that are supposed to care for us have lost common sense, especially medicine and the insurance mafia.
Absolutely. Actually, one more thing I want to jump in with, and that's really important. And we were talking about this quite a bit. There's actually a really good book out there, and it's called The Good Book, as a matter of fact. And there are several passages there that, and again, I'm just going to do my best to go from memory, but there's a few things that catch my attention. Man is made in the image and likeness of God. What does that mean? What exactly does that mean? And please go ahead. Yeah.
Well, to me, it means that you are in awe of the universe, at peace, and you're living to help other people. That's all it's about.
And I'm going to add a few things. There's about 1 million interpretations here, and I have about 1 million of them, actually, if I have enough time. But the idea and the concept is, and we're not saying that God has 2 legs and 2 arms. That's not exactly, that's not my concept of what God is. That'd be a limited concept, although some people like to play God these days. Interesting. I'm going to say one more thing, and this is going to border a little bit on the edge. But you know what in Russian, or actually back in, I'm not sure what the root is, but there's a Dr. Fauci has something in common with another word begins with an F, and it stands for the devil. Now, interesting. I'm not making any assumptions, but again, just word roots, just interesting. Come back to the concept of man made in the image of likeness of God, consciousness, creation, choice, being responsible, able to respond, and needing to respond. And if we don't respond, then it's on us. Consciousness, behaving yourself, creating a lifestyle that leads to consequences. If you have terrible lifestyle, you have terrible consequences. Common sense, right? If you have good lifestyle, there's more likely you're going to have good consequences. Again, there's very little, mystery in the world of health. You either do it right or you don't. You take care of yourself or you don't. You're willing to have and to put the energy into the right things, or you're not, and then enjoy the outcome. And that's part of the common sense, and we lost it.
And that, of course, reminds me of my favorite quote, perhaps of all time: every thought is a prayer. Thinking sets in motion spiritual force to bring about change in everything: body, mind, companions, hope, despair. You cannot afford the luxury of negative thinking. It's no luxury to think positively. It's health and common sense.
Last but not least, one more quote. If I mentioned this one, in the beginning there was word. What does that mean? By intention. One interpretation is by intention, by us being, deliberate and knowing who we are, what we want, and speaking, not just speaking, doing what we can as creators, co-creators with the great creator himself. And there's no other better words, but the concept of creation in a positive way will bring out positive, good outcomes, and will allow us to come back to our heritage, our natural birthright. Because again, as I said, not me, but as the quote said, man is made in the image and likeness of God. So our natural heritage, it's an analogy that I have come up with at some point, and I'm not sure if this works or not, but it's almost like a person, man, woman, who have inherited millions of dollars, and they don't know that they inherited, and they're walking around in broken shoes. That's who we are as human beings. We walk around thinking that we're this weak, little, insignificant beings subject to the tyranny of all sorts and the whims of the powerful, whereas the power is right here within us. There is no savior that's going to come and take us out of our situation until we decide that the time has come and we take the steps to step up our game, to to do our obligation, to be who we're meant to be, and then magical things will happen. Please.
Well, the most important thing is making a decision, first, second, third, and 10th, of taking care of yourself.
Yes.
Having good health habits. Now, once you've done that, anything that you do that helps other people. The person who made this microphone, the people who wrote this, who published this book, we wrote it, but the people who published it and printed it are just as important.
Yes.
We couldn't have done it without them.
Yes.
And so everything is important. Every thought and every action. So every thought and every action every day should be, am I doing my best to help myself and the rest of the world? And of course, it can be specific people that you wish to help as well. But in general, it's everyone that you come into contact with. Everyone is equally important.
Not to forget, include yourself in that statement.
Exactly.
Because we often say, and please don't misunderstand us, because when we say the purpose of life, the purpose of being is to help others. Well, if you don't help yourself, if you don't take care of yourself, you literally cannot help anybody else. So it's your responsibility to be in a strong and good enough position so that you can be of service to the rest of the world around you.
Well, not only are you a drag on yourself, but on other people and society when you don't take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't get ill. I'm saying if your illness is the result of unhealthy habits, you're a selfish person. That is not acceptable as a human being, to want stuff so much that you abuse your own body.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, every day, in every way, I am better and better. Think that, play that, say that, and do that. And it means every habit, from eating, sleeping, thinking, exercising, everything you do should be, number one, take care of myself. Number two, am I giving to the world?
And I want to talk about another interesting topic, because we had a conversation earlier about this. Conventional medical system. We call it healthcare system, but it's actually death care system. I mean, for the most part. I mean, I'm not talking about emergency room or when it's useful. I'm talking about the chronic care with the pharmacomafia and all of that stuff that you've heard us talk about, perhaps. Here's the interesting thing. In this crazy world, and I just want to say this, I had a bunch of consultations today. Over half of them were telling me about their adventures and misfortunes at the hands of conventional and why it took them so long to get to holistic. And so the question is why, and I did ask, so why did it take you so long to get to holistic? And the answer is that people, first of all, were not aware. Second of all, they didn't feel worthy, or they didn't think that there was hope. And those were the two major ones for me. But what about for you?
Well, the same thing today. A man had a major heart attack and was on 6 different drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to get off every one of them because they were making him worse.
Good.
And we gave him a way in which over the next 6 weeks, he could get off those drugs if he follows our instruction. And it could help save his life and his feelings about everything going on. The most important thing is take care of yourself, and we'll be right back after this break. So while we're in between on the air, we can continue talking to those in the audience. Are there any questions already, Rob?
Yeah, let me take a quick look. I didn't see any questions so far, just some comments.
Yeah, let's
maybe they've added some questions.
Let's go through the comments, questions, see what's there.
One question we had. Let's see here.
There we go. One question that we had is from Eve. Eve, she's asking if either of you guys would be willing to talk about your near-death experiences.
About what?
Yes.
Near death.
Near death. I had 3 of them so far. No, I'm not interested in any more, but yes.
Well, I've not had a near-death experience, but I've had out-of-body experiences and many, many psychic experiences. And I've got 16 patents, all of which came to me as downloads. So I consider that the same kind of thing.
I'll jump in with a real quick answer, but I would love to talk about, maybe let's do a show on near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences, because a lot of people don't know what that is. So the short of it, unfortunately, my habits in terms of risk tolerance and being an emergency room doctor have been similar to my driving at times, and I did get into a few situations over time. So one of them should have been a death, or could have been a death, but by most likely, mechanism and otherwise. And it was the most incredible, peaceful, loving experience. And if it wasn't for me to do some more work here, I would be happy to cross on over. The message that I brought back, that I can put literally in a summary sentence for myself, and I hope it applies to everybody else out there, or you can maybe just take something from it. I'm okay. I'm enough. I am love, and I'm loved. And then I started looking a lot into what this means. And then a lot of these things, such as the line, and man was made in the image and likeness of God, because love is the strongest force in the universe. But yeah, incredible stuff.
Well, an out-of-body experience is not painful at all. At least I've had several of them.
Yeah.
And the first time I was at a meeting, and there were 200 people sitting in the audience, and I'm sitting up on the ceiling looking down below. Wasn't that interesting? How did I get up here? And then I'm back in my body. The second time, I actually was in a hypnotic trance to see if he could make me amnesic. And I was not at all amnesic. He couldn't make me amnesic. I'm sitting up there on the ceiling watching. We're down in the tropics, and my mosquitoes all over my body. They don't itch. My body's perfectly at peace. But I'm watching what's happening with him, trying to talk me into not feeling anything. Well, I already didn't feel anything. But Cain, I have, all my 16 patents came out of the sky essentially into my mind, just like that. I know it, and I know if I can prove it, it's going to work, and it has.
And I don't think you've been wrong so far when you've got the.
And I've got 2 more ideas.
Yes.
All right, and one other question we only have about a minute and a half on this one, but Lorraine is asking, what do you think of near-infrared light treatment?
Near-infrared. It's good.
It's good. I don't think it's great as intravenous vitamin C, but it's good.
For detoxification, I mean, I have one of those little saunas. It expands, but you can also have ones that are built into for several people. It's a great concept, especially if you, and I know you're going to like this, castor oil.
Well, now castor oil on the surface of the body, not internally.
And of course, surface. But then go into the sauna and spend 20, 30 minutes, take a good shower. It's great.
Yeah, or rub it on your whole body and put it on a sweatsuit and sleep in it. It is the greatest detox in the world.
Yep.
All right, and that's really all the comments and questions we've got right now. I think everybody's just listening to hear.
They're waiting to hear us talk about recovery common sense.
Which, now, is there a way to recover common sense, you think?
I think it's possible to have common sense. It has to be, first, taking good care of yourself. Nothing is common sense if you don't take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. That's at the top of the line. After that, then you begin to expect the government to have common sense. And that's what we're really talking about.
We got about 45 seconds and we'll be back in.
So the important thing is, do you like yourself enough to take care of yourself? That's the important thing. Well, I don't consider myself the most important person. I consider taking care of my body so that I can help other people. That's my purpose in life. So to me, common sense health habits are absolute essential. It's like breathing and eating and sleeping. I mean,
another way to think about it, how much time do we have?
About 15 seconds.
15 seconds. Okay. So basically, if you've got a high performance vehicle, would you put crap into the fluids, but and so on and so forth? No, you wouldn't. Your body is better than a high performance vehicle. Your body is essential. That's
with Dr. Norm Shealy and Dr. Shealy-Sorin.
And we're back now to talk about common sense. And among other things, it's important in my mind, at the top of the list beyond the good habits, is in today's polluted world, we need extra vitamins, especially. The pollution is horrendous. Once upon a time, you could get by with 1 or 2 milligrams of B complex. Now you need a minimum of 25 milligrams of B complex. Once upon a time, you could get by with 400 units of vitamin D3. Now you need up to 7,000 units a day. And the most important thing right here in Springfield, if you want your supplements, we strongly recommend Spring Valley Natural Foods. I like that place better than any health food store I've ever been in because they give you service. Just walk in the door and they come out to help you. You know, how do you find something in 10,000 different items in a store with a little bottle and you got to go read them? Service is what you have to have in a health food store, and that's where you get it at Spring Valley. And of course, they carry all of the things that we have: the Shealy-Sorin magnesium lotion, our essentials, our youth formula, our well, especially our bliss oils. But the important thing is they got what you need at a health food store. And for you people who don't like to eat your fruits and vegetables, I strongly recommend Nature Blessed Tart Cherry Juice Concentrate. Just 2 tablespoons, 1 ounce, gives you the equivalent of 3.5 servings of the best fruits and vegetables in the world. So it would, even for you who are only eating 2.5 servings or 2.2, whatever it is, servings, adding just Nature Blessed Tart Cherry Juice Concentrate brings you up to at least bare minimum. You can take 4 tablespoons and be at optimal. But I recommend a wide variety, of course. But Nature Blessed Tart Cherry Juice Concentrate lowers your cholesterol, lowers your blood pressure, is anti-inflammatory, and is found only at real grocery stores. If they don't have it, they are a fake grocery store. So those are the top habits to start with. Now, beyond that, whatever your work is, are you aware of its benefit to other people? I'm aware, obviously, that my work is helping people with health, but helping people write is just as important. And helping people publish books is just as important. People making this, everything is important if it helps other people. That's the bottom line.
Absolutely. And here's the thing: wherever there is any sense of confusion. By the way, feel free to call us into the radio. Now, we love to talk, by the way. We don't mind talking the whole radio through, but
We would also like your question.
yes, 417-447-1777.
1777.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So we'll continue having conversation, but we would love to have your questions related to common sense regarding humanity, regarding various things. You know, I want to address one of the questions that came during the break on YouTube, like YouTube and Facebook, and if we can talk about it, we will. If we have to, if we have a question, we'll love to hear it. Now, question was about near death and out of body experiences. Dr. Shealy had the pleasure of out of body. I had the pleasure of near death. I wouldn't recommend near death to everybody. It's a little too close to comfort there. But let's talk about out of body a little more.
Well, out of body is absolutely you are somewhere up in the air at any distance in the air. I mean, I've actually even visited my farm when I was in the Bahamas. 1,000 miles away, and I know I could see the bus bringing my kids home from school that day. So you can have an out of body experience all over the world, or watch what's happening right down below. And there's no pain, no stress. It's a very pleasant knowing.
I utilize that in the therapeutic sessions that I do with clients, because if a person is stuck to a certain belief system, or this is the way it is, this is how I am, this is how it works, this is how I suffer, so on and so forth. It could be mental, physical, emotional. Usually it's all of the above. When that happens, what I do is, and this has to be done very carefully, because I've had some very strong reactions that I had to be present to kind of monitor and make sure that it was okay. Different versions of it, but under mild hypnosis, you can actually put a person in a place where their subconscious comes out. In other words, where their fears, where their desires, where everything that drives their behavior, their thoughts, their outcomes is residing. So in other words, that's the driver of the bus. And what I do is I help them to see it from, and not just from the actor's perspective. In other words, you can have an actor who's having a great role. You can have an actor who's playing a very sick, miserable role, or scared role, or whichever way. And you need actors of all sorts, I imagine. But if a director if a person steps away and looks at it from a director perspective, detached, they're not involved in the suffering of the actor, but they're just aware of the script that is running that actor's life. And you think about it, and this is another homework, by the way, just take some time by yourself, away from technology, away from all the BS of the world, just you, yourself, your heart, your mind, and ask yourself, what kind of script in life are you playing? Who put together that script? Does that script serve you? And if not, is the director, which is you, willing to rewrite that script? And is the actor willing to accept the new script? And that's the bigger question. And then you have to start taking steps.
Rob, be sure to let us know. I can't see the phone in case there's a phone call.
We're doing
So,
okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's a holiday. We may not get many recalls today.
We may not. Or maybe the conversation is so good. It might be that too. I'm not discounting that. So let's continue. So the idea is, and once a person realizes this is part of the therapy. Now, again, the general concept is most people will realize that their scripts that they're running, especially if they're seeing me in the clinic, are faulty. And most of them, not all. I've had 2 people so far that refused to rewrite their script.
Of course.
Just plain refused. Okay, enjoy.
Yeah, if you don't, if you like wallowing in manure, keep wallowing.
Yeah, but everybody else,
Yeah.
just complete, almost.
Well, that's my experience with past life therapy type thing. About 1 person in 100 will not go there.
Mhm.
They just won't go there. That's the kind of stuck person we're talking about.
But that's the same concept. You're dealing with subconscious, and the idea is that you're bringing out, and for example, whatever is relevant, however imagery or visualization, a person, if I can see myself as a 16th example, if I see myself in my image as a 16th century warrior who's getting killed because I'm not equivalent to the guy whom I'm fighting, you can take it symbolically, or you can take it literally. And if I'm having an inferiority complex, I can deal with that role and with that scenario a lot easier than saying about myself that I'm feeling inferior. But if I can work through that smaller warriors, for example, path to overcoming and becoming their full self, guess what I'm doing? I'm doing the subconscious work in getting myself in this current place and time to understand, change, and change the script. That's what that is. Any other thoughts on that?
Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. What can we help you with?
I'd like to know what I can do for acne.
Acne. All right.
Well, that's of course an immune problem to me, and so I would start with: do you have any other immune problems other than acne?
Not really.
Okay, then I would get a high sensitivity C-reactive protein to find out how disturbed your immune system is. And,
A lot. How old are you, if you don't mind?
I'm 11.
11 years old.
11.
Okay. No, you see, at 11, now I would ask you some questions if we were in the office. And again, this is not something I'm going to ask you over the radio, but I would, as a doctor, I would go into basically, have you had your first period? In other words, menstrual period. What about the hormones? In other words, where are
Yes.
you on that whole range? Because when the hormones kick in, unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of changes going on in the body. And actually, immune system plays a role in everything. But in this case, at this age, I think it's more a question of the hormones. The acne can get pretty terrible at times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I would say that at the top of my list, I believe would be trying something called fire and air bliss.
Applied to
Specific acupuncture points.
Yes.
Talk with your parents about it. But that could help your immune system and raise your anti-stress hormone, DHEA.
and
And it's very safe.
balance the endocrine system.
Yes. In fact, I've used that in people to help them start or stop
Cycles.
menstrual cycle.
Yes, and if you can do that, guess what? You can control all the other stuff easier. Yeah.
That's nice.
Thank you for calling in.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know if it works.
Yeah. Thank you. Are we good? Yeah. So yeah, let's come back to the. So we were talking about the concept of running through a script of somebody's life. So how many scripts? And now there's one very interesting script Now, you already mentioned that on one of the other shows, or maybe more than one, but there was a woman whom you did, well, was it a regression? The one that was basically shot by the husband. I'm giving away the ultimate
No,
outcome.
that was a forgiveness, an exercise on forgiveness.
Well, okay, that was different.
And it cured her
Right.
of cancer, metastatic throughout her body. And she didn't tell me about that 3 months later.
But okay, so and it's a fascinating story. I just want to get to a certain angle of it. If you cancer, how many people think that cancer is incurable? Because I'm going to say something here. First thing you need is hope. I was supposed to be dead from cancer from 07 to 09 if I believed and if I truly, again, went with that concept and if I subscribed to that. It's called negative placebo, nocebo. I told the guy who basically gave me a death sentence that he would be dead before I was at the time, and I didn't even think about that at the time. I was going to act on it, really. So the idea is, and the concept, totally, in remission now. But that was a wonderful experience to get me to understand who I was. I'm a spiritual being. So how did I overcome cancer? How did I change all those crappy habits that I had? Or I wasn't that crappy. I mean, wasn't that great either. But because I realized that I'm a spiritual being, I'm a soul. And then I decided to change my thought pattern. I gave up guilt. I decided to give up guilt. It was a work in progress. Anger, lots of bad things. And then I changed physical things about myself. So is change easy or hard? You decide. Your decision. You want it to be difficult? Guess what? You got it. You want it to be easy? You got it. Bottom line is, you are an infinite, sovereign, powerful spiritual being who has a voice. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, powerful things, emotion, energy in motion. And healing, miracles happen. Why? Well, because we're more than our physical body, and we're more, actually, I got one more thing to say. You know how tyrannical governments run? Fear, threats.
Of course.
Back in the former Soviet, I can talk about former Soviet, right? It was intimidation. It was death, material possessions, and starvation, and so on and so forth. At some point, my family didn't give up, And so now, bottom line is, it doesn't matter. I mean, why? Yeah, we come in here, we go through this journey. I have no fear. In other words, I have no concern. If I'm doing something of value, if I'm following my heart, if I'm doing God's work, I'll do it. Fear, threats, what can you take away? Can you take away my physical body? Yeah, I'm going home anyway. Can you take away my things? Guess what? I've had many times where I had things and I didn't have things. It's, yeah.
Always detach from those things you cannot change. And those things you can change, put your energy into it if you like. It's your choice.
Yeah.
But if you can't change it, just detach. I mean, I can't change. It's supposed to start raining in an hour or so. I can't change that.
Yeah.
I can't allow it to worry me. If it snowed or hailed or good heavens, whatever, I detach.
And the worry and the fear run along the same path.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter what it is. If you get upset over it, angry about it, you're wasting your life energy.
And there's only one force that is strong enough to overcome fear. Love.
Well, that is true. But love is the desire to do good to help other people. That's what I think of love
Yes.
as. It's not just liking, it's wanting to embrace, to help, to make healthy or whatever.
And the other interesting analogy, I just got so many downloads over the last several weeks, and it just keeps coming. The other interesting analogy is just like with a candle I mentioned earlier in a dark room. Just think of a single drop, if you were to consider, of truth, a drop of love in a room full of, well, darkness, shadow, all kinds of terrible things, lies. It doesn't stand a chance.
Well, let's go back to our talk about original health habits.
Yes.
Because the average American is sloppy in their health habits, and that's being kind, the average American dies at age 79. We are born, an average person is born with telomeres, the tips of your DNA, that shrink if you have good health habits, 1% a year. Now, we have demonstrated over the last 12 years, you can regrow those telomeres up to 3.5% a year. Now, that means you could live, if you have good health habits, a minimum of 120 years.
And that's, by the way, written in the book. I mentioned this, Anastasia by
Yes.
Vladimir Megre. Wonderful, amazing book, by the way, as well. Yeah.
So if you want to have the good health habits and live a longer time, then you, at the very least, could use fire, earth, and crystal bliss a minute and a half a day. That's the best thing we've found so far to rejuvenate, regrow your own telomeres. And it's very safe. And at 3.5% a year, in 10 years, you've gained 35 years of life.
But you have to have the good foundation, the
Yeah.
basic.
You got to have the habits or it won't work.
That's right. It's, the other, I don't know why I like analogies, but the other and a good analogy is the house. You don't have a good foundation. You can build the fanciest, nicest structure up above. It's going to crumble at the first opportunity.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Now, for instance, in my own family, my father and three of his brothers all died between 48 and 54 years of age. Brother number 6 lived to be 80. The only difference was he didn't smoke. Now, my father and my uncles were great people, personality-wise, but they didn't take care of themselves. They got addicted to smoking. That alone can knock off up to 20 or 30 years of your life if you smoke 3 packs a day. Now, the same is true if you are 40 pounds or more overweight. That shortens your life the same as someone who smokes 3 packs of cigarettes a day. So every habit is critically important. And I would starve to death before I would be overweight. I've never been overweight in my life, but I would stop eating if necessary in order to do it. Now, mostly I would stop eating, of course, sugar and wheat and rice and potatoes. But basically, if necessary, I'd cut out calories. I wouldn't allow it.
Norm, I'm going to just say something. That is the words of a warrior, a health warrior. And I'm going to let me go there in that dimension here for a bit. Now, you've got, there's so much to say here. If you are...
Got a phone call?
Oh.
Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm wondering if you could talk with me a little bit about the PMS.
My favorite topic in the world.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was it?
Okay, good.
Yeah, your question on PMF, what was that?
I would like to know if I can test my DHEA to see a before and after, or my telomeres.
I don't know about the PMF lengthening your telomeres, but the only lab that I trust, by the way, is in Vancouver. And if you want to get that, send me an email and I'll tell you how to get in touch with them.
Now,
Norm@normshealy.com.
That would be thank you for mentioning that, because that would be a fascinating consideration for a study, wouldn't it?
Oh, yes. And I also want to do it with the Rejuvitins.
That's right.
So we're going to do other studies, but we have not done a study on the PIP for telomere regeneration.
Not yet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have been using the bliss oils for about 5 months, but I don't know whether anything's happening.
Well, the only way you would know is to do your telomeres. You could check your telomeres and see if you're in the upper 90% or something like that of your population. You understand what I'm saying?
How would I do that now?
You could get the blood tests from Repeat Diagnostics, this lab in Vancouver. And if your telomeres are in the upper 90%, the chances are you've helped them with what you've already done.
Okay. And now about the PEMF, is there a difference in the 3 different levels?
Oh, the settings, yes.
Which one is going to help me most with pain?
In general, or with pain delta, you put it over the area and use the delta frequency. But the sweep works for pain as well, in my experience.
And then just for your information, the gamma is going to be for your concentration, for your brain, for if there's any sense of anxiety, depression, anything of that nature.
Yeah, it's best for the mood.
It's and you'll put it right over, either slide it down towards your neck, or just go over the baseball cap. Easy enough. Yeah.
Okay. I have been wearing it around my neck.
Yeah.
And it sort of feels like it's touching both shoulders where I have my pain. But I also have been wearing it on my head. I've been wearing Gamma for about a week every day. and delta at night when I sleep.
Perfect. You're doing this right.
Excellent.
I love the fact that it's right on the area of the pain on your shoulders.
I do too.
That's great.
But I would use either the sweep or the delta to get the optimal pain relief.
Okay. And then what about the setting number 1? What should I use that for?
Number 1 is the sweep, the general all over the place. Number 2 is the gamma, and number 3 is delta.
I do like the setting number 1 specifically for regeneration, more than anything else. So when you're, after you do a couple hours of each other, just other settings, I should say, make sure to come back to the sweep for at least an hour or two during the day if you have a chance.
Yes.
Okay. And would that one be addressing, one of them addresses mitochondria?
Mitochondria, I think we know that the sweep works really well on that.
Yeah, that would be the general sweep.
And that's what we're talking about, regeneration. Regeneration from the trillions of cells that are in your physical body.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for calling.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Bye. Do we have any other questions? Or,
we don't have any other calls right now, but taking a look around here, it did look like we had a couple of questions.
Oh, yeah. Let's address the questions on the media. Yeah.
So Marla was asking, here we go. If I can get that displayed there. Okay. She says her 85-year-old mother has neuropathy, and they have her on the youth formula and essentials. They just started her on magnesium, and she has very little smell and taste, but when she puts them on, she has very strong bitter taste in her mouth.
I would say at the top of my list is be sure to get a hemoglobin A1C. If your hemoglobin A1C is above 5.6, you have prediabetes, and that's the cause of your neuropathy. And it can reverse neuropathy, but that has to be treated without drugs.
Okay. And we have about 1 minute left. And I think that was the last question that we had for tonight.
Great. Well, the important thing, folks, is you're worth it. You are a human being here to help other human beings. And each of us is just as important if we are helping other people. So happy Thanksgiving. Take care of yourself, your family, and do to the world. And if you're really interested in getting more, get yourself a copy of Recovering Common Sense on Amazon.
Actually, also on our website.
On our website as well, yes.
Yeah.
And the important thing is think health and be healthy. So until next week, y'all have a good one. So no more questions. I guess we're done.
Actually, I did want to make another quick statement for those for whom that statement might be applicable. But let's address if something comes up here.
Somebody was asking, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving. For the first time in many years, I'm going to be with my beautiful family. I decided to take the weekend off from the emergency room, and I'm sticking with it.
And I will be with my family. And to me, that's Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah. Right. And by the way, speaking of Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving to all, and blessings. So, one other thing that we didn't, I would have loved to talk about is, so at some point, there was
Are you guys ready to go off? Or you still
no, just a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so this book actually was inspired by several things, and one of the things that was inspired is by the American Revolution against the tyranny of, the tyrant, in short. And time has come for each and every person to think for themselves, to take an honest look in the mirror of their own soul, heart, spirit, however you see yourself, and ask yourself, are you being your very best? Are you speaking your truth? Are you living your best life? Are you your optimal self? If you're not, it is time to take, it's time for another revolution. It is time for the revolution of consciousness. It is time for a revolution of remembrance, remembering who you are, remembering your heritage. Man is made in the image and likeness of God. We are God-like in certain ways. We are creators. We get to create. We have that responsibility. We have the response capacity and we have the obligation. And if we don't, it's on us. And when enough people rise up, then the society begins to change.
And the time has come, the walrus said,
It's time to get healthy.
to live
Yeah.
in the image of God.
Amen. Yeah.